Good morning, students. Today we are continuing with the chapter number 3, Poverty as a Challenge. Causes of poverty. Till now we have studied what is poverty, how is poverty line drawn, who are the people who are below poverty line, and we have compared the states also, that which state is more poor. In the same way, we have done global poverty scenario also. Today we are doing what are the causes due to which India, in India there is so much of poverty. When we talk about the common causes, we see around us there is illiteracy, there is unemployment, there is helplessness. These are the major causes of poverty. Along with them, if we look into past of our country, we will come to know that why actually poverty is there in our country. Because children, you might have studied in history chapters that once upon a time, before the Britishers came to India, India was a very rich country. But when Britishers came to India, they have ruined our development also in all the spheres. Especially, they have ruined our traditional handicrafts industry. We all know that before independence, mostly the people worked in the agriculture sector and they used to make cloth in the handicraft industry. So when Britishers came to India, they took our raw material to their country, especially the cotton raw material. They exported from India to Britain and they brought to India their cotton textiles. So the machine made cotton textiles were much cheaper than the cotton cloth which was made in the handicraft industry, because of which many people who were engaged in this handicraft industry, they all lost their jobs. There was no work for them to do. So this has resulted in the less job opportunities and also the low growth rate of the income. So these people, they were earning very less income, and on the other side we all know again that Britishers charged a very high taxes from our farmers and the other people. On each and every common thing there were taxes. Farmers had to pay a heavy tax to the British government, again because of which there was low growth rate of the income of the people. Along with these problems, there was a very high growth rate of population. One side, the people were not having any income, there were no jobs in the market, growth rate was very slow, but on the other side, economic growth rate was slow. So on the other side, we had a very high growth rate of population. That means the birth rate was very high. These two things combined, one side the population was increasing, on the other side the poverty was increasing. These two combined to make the growth rate of per capita income very low. That means per person income was very low. For example, in a family, there used to be, in earlier days, there used to be 13 children, sometimes even 14 children in a family. You ask your grandparents, they will tell that how many members were there in their family. So the families were very big. So per person the income was very low. The failure at both the fronts, that is promotion of economic growth. The government did not allow our country to develop. The British government did not allow it. So the economic growth rate was very low. On the other side, the population control was not there, because of which the cycle of poverty was there. That means many people were under this cycle of poverty. What do you mean by cycle of poverty? Cycle of poverty means that kind of circle from which the poor are not able to come out. So that is, you might have seen the cycle, the tire in the cycle, it keeps on moving. So the person who is caught in this poverty is not able to overcome the poverty because of these reasons: low economic growth rate and high population growth. That is your first cause of population. Because of the Britishers, India remained a very poor country. So that is, we call it as a historic cause of population. Then let's continue with the second cause. With the spread of irrigation and green revolution, we all know that in India again in 1960s, green revolution was introduced. When green revolution was introduced, many job opportunities were created in the agriculture sector. Again, when there was green revolution, modern farming methods were applied, under which irrigation system, fertilizers, pesticides, high yielding variety seeds, all these will come under the modern farming methods. These green revolution, it was good enough for the large farmers who could afford to buy these modern farming methods, and because of which there was surplus amount of food grains. So some amount of jobs were created in the agriculture sector. But the labor in India is more in comparison to the jobs which are created in the agriculture sector. For example, if there is 100 labor, maybe 10 jobs are created in the agriculture sector. So still 90 people out of every 100 were jobless. And one more thing, this green revolution we studied in the first chapter of economics, it was not applicable to the all kinds of food grains, and it was not applicable to the all the states of our country. This green revolution was applicable, or it was applied only by, it was effective only in the states like Punjab, Haryana and Western UP, and it was mainly applicable in the wheat, especially in the northern India, and in some states in southern India it was applicable even for the rice also. So it was not that much effective, and it has not created so many jobs. That is the second reason, children, that the green revolution was effective only to the few regions of our country and few crops. Then coming to the next part, government, after we got our independence, government thought of development, faster development of our country. So in order to do so, government had set up lots of industries in our country, both in the public sector as well as in the private sector. They did provide some jobs. When the industries were set up, they have created some amount of jobs. But these were not enough to absorb all the job seekers. There was so much of unemployment that even if industries were created and some jobs were created, these industries could not absorb the whole unemployed labor. Just now I gave you example that if suppose again there are 1,000 people in one small region who are unemployed, and one industry is laid or set up, it will give employment to 100 people. The rest of the 900 people are still jobless. That is the meaning, that even if industries were created, it could not create many jobs. And the people who could not get the jobs in the cities, many people started doing all kinds of odd works like rickshaw pullers, vendors, construction workers, domestic servants, and there they have very low and irregular income. They do not have a regular income like a rickshaw puller. The day he gets few customers, he'll get some income. That there may be some days when he will not get any customer, so he will not get any income, and that too very low income. And these people, those who do not have a regular income, they cannot afford living in a big houses or expensive houses. And where do they live? They live in the slums, which are poor huts, and all of them, they live in very very crowded areas, very crowded place, that is slums, and especially on the outskirts of the cities. And the problems of poverty, largely a rural phenomena today, it has become even the phenomena of the urban regions. Earlier, this poverty was mainly seen in the rural areas because most of the people were living in the rural areas and they were dependent on the agriculture. But when there were no jobs in the agriculture sector, many people migrated to the cities. And in cities, when they did not find the jobs, they started doing all odd kind of jobs and remained in the slums with unhygienic conditions, and they remained as poor forever. So that feature which was there earlier in the rural region, where the people were poor in the rural region, now that poverty is now seen in the urban sector also. That is even in the cities, because people migrated from there, but their condition had not improved even if they have migrated. That is the third cause of the poverty. Coming to the next cause is your huge income inequalities. Fourth cause, children, it is huge income inequalities. That is a large gap between the rich and the poor. In our country, if you see in your surroundings, you will see that whatever resources are there, they are not equally distributed. Some people have large amount of resources, whether it is a big house, water resources, all other resources they have in abundance. But in some regions, some people do not have even proper water, drinking water also. That is what is called as unequal distribution of resources, which has led to huge income inequalities. On one side, we see people like Ambani with huge wealth. On the other side, we see also a poor beggar who is not having even 100 rupees per day. That much difference is there in the income of the people of our country. And that is what I've told you. The reason is unequal distribution of land and other resources. Again, I'll tell you about the first chapter which we did, Palampur chapter, where you might have seen that uh, the total land of the village is not evenly distributed. Some of the farmers had large amount of lands, more than 15-20 hectares of lands, but some of the poor farmers were not having even half hectare of land. That is how the land is unequally distributed. In the same manner, all other resources in our country are unequally distributed. Despite many policies which are made by the government, still there is so much of inequality in our country. For example, the policies which I am talking about are major policy initiatives like land reforms, which aimed at redistribution of assets in rural areas. Now, we have done this in earlier part, removal of zamindari system and redistribution of land in states like West Bengal and many states. It's not only West Bengal. In all the states of our country, this was made mandatory that the zamindari system will be removed and the lands will be taken from the landlords and it will be redistributed among the poor farmers. So the program or the policy was made as a part of land reform, but how far it is implemented. That's the question mainly. So when we talk about the implementation, implementation was not done properly in our country. Only in the files it was made that the land reform measure should be taken, the land should be redistributed among the poor people. This was only in the files. Actually, or it was maybe effective only to one or two states, maybe the states like West Bengal. But in all other states, it was not implemented properly, because of which people still remained poor in the villages. So millions of rural poor remained still poor even if this policy was there, because there was no proper implementation of the policy. But think children, if this policy would have properly been implemented, then it could have removed the poverty from our country, especially in the rural areas at least. Millions of rural poor people would have come out of the poverty if this implementation would have been done. That is the land redistribution of the land, distributing the land to all the farmers. Maybe 1 hectare of the land, at least the poor people would have able to come out of the poverty. But this was not done in our country. It happens when we talk about, we'll talk so many policies in this chapter only in the later part. So many policies are made in our country. Every government comes and they make so many policies, they make so many promises. Have you ever observed so many promises they make? Every party comes and makes a policy that we will remove poverty. Then still, why there is so much of poverty in India? Because they come and promise you and they make only policies, but that implementation is not done. What is implementation, children? Effective, actual effectiveness. For example, if you make a timetable at your home, that I'll follow this timetable, I'll study from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock, or whatever timetable you make, and you paste it on your wall or on your table, study table, but it remains there only. You are not implementing, you are not following it. What is the use of making of that timetable, study timetable? That is exactly what I am talking about here. If the policies are made by the government but they are not implemented, that is why even today there is so much of poverty. So that is one more cause, children. Huge income inequalities. Then we have the next cause, that is socio-cultural and economic factors. What do you mean by this term, socio-cultural and economic factors? These are, when we see our surroundings, there are many people who are not having the jobs. Some are not having jobs because they are socially deprived classes. For example, many poor people, they come from the categories of the lower caste categories, for example, scheduled caste, OBC, scheduled tribes, many of them. And they are, because they don't have any proper jobs, they do all kinds of odd jobs, because of which they earn very less and they remain poor. That is what that is one example of a social cause which I am talking about, because people don't give them the equal opportunities. That's the reason. And then economic factors we have studied, like the people, the casual laborers, the landless farmers. They don't have any land to come out of the poverty, so they remain in that cycle of poverty. Then we'll come to further examples over here. In order to fulfill the social obligations and observe the religious ceremonies, people in India, including the very poor, spend a lot of money. We have seen many poor people go to village, or even in the cities when we see the people. For example, whenever there is a marriage, even if a person's income is so low, they spend so much of amount of money in the marriages. That is just to show off. Now, when this is done, that is what we call it as the religious ceremonies. When these kind of religious ceremonies are done beyond a limit, a person's income, the person is caught in the debt traps. He takes so much of loans and then he will be in the debt trap. And the farmer and the people become poor. That is how we have seen so many cases like this. They spend lavishly, they show off lavishly, but actually they fall into the debt trap. Some people I have seen, they buy so many phones, there some people they buy so many cars, even if they don't have the money, just to show off the society, and then they fall into the debt trap. In the same manner, we see there are so many small farmers in the villages. Those who have 1 hectare of land, 2 hectares of land, they take loans to buy seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, and when their crop fails, they are not able to repay the loan, and then they have to sell even a part of their land also. So they further become poor by taking those loans from the money lenders, because money lenders charge a very high interest rate. So that is one more example which is given over there. Unable to repay because of poverty. They become victims of indebtedness. Indebtedness is they are not able to repay the loan, so they fall into that debt trap, and they have to sell a part of their land to give the loan back to the from wherever they have taken the loans. So that is called as indebtedness when they fall into the debt trap. So the high level of indebtedness, in Hindi we call it as कर्ज, when they fall into this indebtedness, is both the cause and effect of the poverty. Why a person takes a loan, like a farmer, poor farmer, he takes a loan because he is poor. He doesn't have any investment, and it is cause of poverty also. That is, because he is poor, he is taking a loan. And the other way, if you see, he has taken a loan, he is not able to repay it, that is why he is poor. So children, these are your socio-cultural and economic factors because of which people remain poor. In this, even you can add, under the socio-cultural and economic factors, you can add the big size of family, which is also a cause of poverty under this only. Socio-cultural and economic factors, they are not separate causes. Then illiteracy, unemployment, these all are the socio-cultural and economic factors of the poverty. So children, go through all the causes of the poverty. I'm just repeating just the causes of the poverty. You will write in your registers, explain the causes of poverty. So how will you write? You will write all the causes. First, the name of the cause, number 1. Write the cause, underline it, put a hyphen in front of it, and then explain the cause. Then after that first part is over, leave that. In the next line, you write number 2, the cause, that is the cause, and then name of the cause, and then underline, put a hyphen, and then write the explanation of that cause. So the first cause is the historical cause. It is called as historical cause. Low level of economic development under the British colonial administration. Low level of economic development under the British colonial administration. That is your first cause. Second cause is your ineffectiveness of green revolution. Ineffectiveness of green revolution. Then you will explain that. Then next one, setting up of industries could not create enough jobs. Setting up of industries could not create enough jobs. Next cause, Huge income inequalities. Huge income inequalities. And the last cause is your socio-cultural and economic factors. Socio-cultural and economic factors. After writing these 5 causes, you have to explain each cause, and the question is for 5 marks, and you have to explain, then only you will get the complete 5 marks, children. So write the question, answer and learn it, because in the next class, children, we will do the last part of the chapter, that is anti-poverty measures. That would be your last part of this chapter, that is poverty as a challenge. So in the next class we'll meet, children. Have a good day.